Hi, welcome to the small corner of the internet that is my channel, Citizen Survival Plan. And today I want to cover a topic that I've seen in forums and across the internet for preppers for a long time now. And that is the topic of, will the military or government be taking supplies from the prepared? I really don't see it happening, and I'm going to get into why, so let's get started. Let's first start with, would the government be willing to do this? The military or government, would they be willing to actually carry something like this out? And I believe yes. The government and the military, not all of them, but there's a large portion of them that are I'm just following orders people. And this is done on purpose. We've seen this during the pandemic, coronavirus, and I'll link a story below. But during the early stages of COVID, there was someone who was hoarding hand sanitizer, and they confiscated it, and people cheered this, saying they didn't want people hoarding things and it needs to be given to the general public. So he was posting this all over social media, showing how much he had, and I think he was selling it is what he was trying to do, which, whether you're for or against that, it's his right to actually buy the stuff. And I also want you to consider how small of an amount it even was. Even if it was a storage locker or container full of it, it really wasn't that much on the grand scheme of things. But nonetheless, it was considered hoarding. So during emergencies, the general population seems to be okay with suspending rights and taking things from people for the greater good. So in the beginning of this, in the beginning of SHTF, I do believe you're gonna see some of this a little bit to the people who post on social media. And I am fully aware that I post my stuff to social media, so I would be before you if this were ever to happen. Officials will step all over people and citizens if they think it's gonna benefit them some way, even if it seems short-sighted to a thinking person. The problems with doing this. First of all, it's going to be an intel nightmare. Even if they got a list of all the YouTubers and all the people who post their supplies on the internet and show their food supply, they're not really going to be sure of the actual location. No matter even if it is someone who's on YouTube has shown it at their house and they have an idea of where the property is. The video could be a year old, it could be 6 months old, and during emergencies, people can move things around. The supplies may not be in that one spot. So they're gonna have to go door to door, increasing risk and danger to them, and they may be breaking into a home with no supplies just to be shot at. So that's gonna be a problem if you have government, military breaking into people's homes for a very small amount of supplies. They might not even get anything. So they're gonna need intel. They're gonna need a lot of people collecting data on people and actually figuring out who's prepared and who's not. They don't want to just break into just anyone's house. That's a lot of risk. That's a lot going on just for nothing. So definitely looking at people. They're definitely going to be needing a lot of this intel. Could they interrogate me or others or someone who is like me who posts prepping videos on the internet? Well, of course, they can interrogate me and find out where my supplies are if they weren't at my home or maybe in another building that I owned or something, or at a relative's house. So then they're really, really going to put themselves in a bad light because people are going to find out about the government interrogating people and stealing their supplies. It's not going to look good. And again, even if I have, let's say, 3 months, a year of food supplies, they are such a large entity. The government is enormous. The military is enormous. They need a lot of food, a lot of supplies. My little 1 year supply for four people, or 2 year supply, whatever it might be, depending on who they're taking it from. I'm trying not just to talk about just me, but if somebody has a year or two, it's still not that much. I think by the time the government gets so desperate that they are now having resources intel agencies finding out who has supplies. The government has already collapsed. The military would be in pieces. If the military is not able to actually just keep up such a basic necessity as feeding the troops or National Guard or CIA agents or whoever's going to be carrying out these operations of stealing from the general public, it's going to be broken off factions after the government collapse, in my opinion. And there are going to be small groups of people. And by that point, most people in neighborhoods and around the country will not actually view them as a real government entity. Early on, if they start doing this, sort of like what we saw during the pandemic, you might have some of this, and it will not go on long. Once the government is that desperate that they are taking small quantities of supplies from people, it's most likely going to go only to government personnel, as the people that look around and want supplies dispersed among the population will realize that the government is just going to be taking it for themselves. Imagine how bad things are going to be before they're doing this. So keep that in mind. They're not going to be dispersing it. So the people who are usually all gung-ho about the government dispersing supplies, food, medicine to other people, they're going to realize it's not going out to the population. It's being hoarded for them. It's going to be a heavy toll for a small amount of goods. Military personnel also, there probably will be some of them in the government, in the military, that are not going to be okay with this happening. Also, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to point out the fact that they're going to take on casualties, injuries, and all kinds of other problems with kicking every door in and taking supplies. My final thoughts on, can this happen? Yes, in the beginning, on a small scale, for people posting their stash on social media, I could see it happening a little bit, but it would most likely be done by a disconnected rogue agencies that are small enough that one person's small stash of supplies could even help them. For the federal government to do it, I just don't think it's going to be worth it. It's going to be risky for them. They're going to take on casualties, injury, and they're also going to be burning more resources, using up intel, equipment, fuel, and all kinds of other stuff to go door to door trying to collect just enough supplies to survive. The government would probably no longer be in existence by the time it got to that point. This is a quick opinion piece by me. Feel free to argue with me in the comments and let me know what you think would happen. This is my opinion, and I always welcome other people's. I've actually learned a lot from people commenting on this channel. It's always made me think, and we appreciate it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.